How you doing, guys? Big Mac Dowskull here today, back once again with another Conquest video for you. Today we're going to be taking a look through the pages of issue 78. Conquest issue 78. What do we get in the issue? So, the speculation was it going to be a base, was it going to be transfers? Some people put in last week's video that it's already been confirmed that there will be no transfers in Conquest. However, there was a vague hope that I had, but no, it is just the base in this issue. I guess the way you've got to look at it is it's still good value. We're getting a repulsor, including the base, spread over 4 issues. And despite the fact that we're just getting a base in this issue, it's packed full of lore, packed full of information about various different parts of the Imperium. You'll find out more when I go through the pages, really, but it's packed full of information, this issue, despite the fact that we only get a base in it, so it's a reasonable value issue in terms of lore and information. And like I said, it's part of the 4 issues that the repulsor was split over, meaning we're still getting a repulsor tank for a lot less, like £13 less than we would do from Games Workshop. That's less than you get it for from most third-party retailers as well, if not all third-party retailers. So, onto the actual contents of the issue. First off, let's take a look at the front cover as always. We get the Repulsor Tank Part 4, Discover the Inquisition, and Repulsor Tank data sheet. There's plenty more in here though, as you'll see. Turning onto the first page, we get the Inquisition. The Imperium stands on the brink of destruction, surrounded on all sides by unknown threats, and tempted to ruin by the lure of forbidden knowledge. Mankind is only one mistake away from destruction. The fate will only be avoided through the eternal vigilance of the Inquisition. That's almost laughable in some ways, because the Inquisition, in many ways and in many instances, different Inquisitors disagree on many different things and many methods and ways of doing things and stuff with each other. So the Inquisition, there's lots of infighting within the Inquisition. So to say that they are sort of judge, jury and executioner, which is the role that's implied in these 2 pages here that we get about the Inquisition, it's an oversimplification, because you get Inquisitors fighting with Inquisitors and stuff in the lore of the 40k universe. However, taking a closer look at the different ordos of the Inquisition, we've got the Ordo Malleus, which is tasked with protecting the Imperium from demonic threats, has the largest military force of any ordo. They are able to call upon the service of the legendary Grey Knights to purge demonic forces. So yeah, they fight alongside the Grey Knights, or they can call the Grey Knights into action where they see demonic incursion into real space, into the Imperium in particular. Onto the Ordo Hereticus. The Ordo Hereticus used to fight a lot with Sisters of Battle, and when I can't remember the name of the book, but I'm sure there was a Codex Witch Hunters, I think it was, where the Ordo Hereticus Inquisitors were included in that, and it was basically Sisters of Battle, lots of Inquisitors, and I don't know, there might have been some Grey Knights rules in there as well, but don't quote me on that. Correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong there. But anyway, the Ordo Hereticus are responsible for rooting out heresy within the Imperium and combating psychers. The agents often work undercover, gathering evidence of betrayal and heretical behaviour before unleashing their own brand of fiery judgment. And then we get the Ordo Xeno, or Xenos rather. The Ordo Xenos work a lot of the time. They work with Grey Knights, and they work to protect humanity from the plots and schemes of the alien, as well as investigate and catalogue new species of technology. Not only do they work with Deathwatch a lot, did I say Deathwatch or Grey Knights? Might say Grey Knights again there. But not only do they work with Deathwatch a lot, but they can take alien technology and use it for their own means, in the same way that the Deathwatch do with like Necron phase swords and stuff like that. Onto the next page, we get Imperial Agents Officio Assassinorum. So, when an Inquisitor needs something doing, needs a certain individual taken out, they might employ the services of one of the assassin temples, the Officio Assassinorum. There are 4 different temples that the Officio Assassinorum is split into. There are more in the 40k lore, definitely over the course of like the Horus Heresy. There's a Horus Heresy book, I can't remember, Nemesis is the name of the book, a novel. It took me a while to get into that one, but I really enjoyed it by the end of it. But there's more ordos in the Officio Assassinorum than just these 4, but in game terms at least, there are just these 4 main ordos. And I'll talk you through them. Yeah, so there's the Ordo Callius, or Temples rather. There's Callius Temple, which trains assassins that become the masters of disguise, and through genetic manipulation they're able to morph their body. So they're like a shapeshifter, they can become me. So I might see another person turn up next to me here, take me out, and then start doing a video for you. Wouldn't it be good if I had the editing skills to do that? But I don't. And then there's the Eversaur Temple, which the Eversaurs are like the ultimate brute force, get the job done, threat, take out the threat that is required. They're like a space marine on steroids almost. Not quite, because they're not a space marine, they don't have the same body enhancements, but they're pumped full of drugs and stims and stuff to heighten the senses, and just they're like a berserker basically. When you're not bothered at all about what do you call it? Like third parties getting hurt. I can't remember what you call it, but when you're not bothered about third parties getting hurt and those that aren't the main target, then you might want to send an Eversaur assassin in. They'll just shred through waves of enemy, or not enemy models, but waves of people to get to their target and to destroy their target. Their only thought is of their target, and it's so extreme. These assassins are so extreme, the Eversaur assassins, that between journeys taking them from one job to another, they're kept in stasis so that they don't take out their masters basically. And then we have Vindicare assassins, which are like snipers basically. They can sit in a position for weeks, for months at a time, and just wait for their target to appear between the sights, and bang, they'll take them out with one shot. They've got different types of ammunition, similar to certain Space Marine forces, different types of ammunition to get the job done depending on what their target is. And yeah, they're awesome as well. And then we've got the Calexis assassins, which are particularly good at taking out psychers. They have this Animus Speculum, I think it's called. Let me see if I've got that right. Yes, I've got that right. They have this Animus Speculum, which it's like it's a mask that they wear, and then it opens up, and they've got like a... I'll read this for you. Their assassins have no presence in the warp. Yeah, so they're psychic blanks in the same way as the Sisters of Silence, which I'll talk about in a second. Yeah, they're pariahs. They have the pariah gene, which means they leave no trace in the warp, so psychers can't detect them, and they nullify the powers of a psyker, and they can take the souls as well. I think that's the idea of the Animus Speculum. But onto the next page, we get Imperial agents, Sisters of Silence. This goes to show the fact that we've got 3 different factions spoken about within the Imperium, sub-factions within the Imperium. This goes to show how much more depth there is to Imperial lore than there is to, say, the second most developed lore in 40k, I'd argue, is Eldar lore. Eldari, Drukari, you've got Exodites, you've got Harlequins, you've got the Inari as well, new faction, but there's nowhere near the rich content available as there is for the various factions of the Imperium. And that is, in many ways, it's kind of frustrating if you're a player of a particular Xenos race and your faction isn't as developed in the lore and on the tabletop as well. There's far more model options available and far more book options available, like novels, for Imperial factions than there are for alien factions. However, you know, that's just the way GW do it. They like to promote what they frame as the good guys, but aren't really, when you look into the lore and stuff, they're not necessarily the good guys. However, back to the Sisters of Silence. The Sisters of Silence have the pariah gene, which means, again, like the Calexis assassins, they leave no trace in the warp. Not only that, when they're near a psyker, the gene basically enables them to nullify the psyker's powers. So psykers don't work around them, basically. The way the psyker acts when they're around them, they sort of... A Sister of Silence is sort of off-putting to be around for a normal human, for an un-psychically gifted human, a non-psychically gifted human. But then around a psyker, whether it's human, alien, whatever, then they're like, ugh, they're anathane, they're just, you don't want to be near them, and they make you feel sick and give you a horrible feeling in your stomach if you're a psyker. and they man what is known as what are called the black ships. Or I say they man, they are the personnel, the crew of the black ships. The women, they're all women, Sisters of Silence. They're the crew of the black ships, and the black ships go all across the Imperium collecting psychers, unlicensed psychers. For some reason I'm really struggling with the word unlicensed. Unlicensed psychers, it's the anticipation of saying psychers I think that's making me struggle with that. Yeah, so they crew the black ships, they get all the unlicensed psychers and put them into the cells on the black ships, nullify the powers, get them back to Terra itself, where they are sorted into different, depending on the grade of their psychic ability, the level of their psychic ability. They might be just used as fodder for the Astronomicon, the beacon that lights the way through the warp for Imperial navigators. They could be sent into the ranks of the Scholastica Psychana, and they could become sanctioned psychers in Imperial Guard forces. If they're young enough, they might be thrown into a Space Marine Legion and thrown into the Librarius of a particular Space Marine Legion. But yeah, they're basically responsible for collecting, gathering all the psychers. In the Horus Heresy, they were used a lot. They were used in the Burning of Prospero conflict because the Thousand Sons were a particularly psychically talented legion, and they needed lots of Sisters of Silence who were far more numerous during the heresy, and they needed Sisters of Silence there to nullify the psychic powers of the Thousand Sons when they were going to bring Magnus to censure. The Talons of the Emperor were going to bring Magnus to censure along with the Space Wolves. On to the next page, Imperial Agent Showcase. I'll have whacked these up behind myself by now, but we've got a few key characters featured: Inquisitor Cortez, Inquisitor Greyfax, Inquisitor Fyodor Karamazov. And then on the next page we've got Assassins and the Sisters of Silence. The showcase, yeah, it's a nice showcase, and I think just goes to show though how these sub-factions, they managed to fit that showcase for 3 different sub-factions onto 2 pages, 2 sides of the same page essentially. And it goes to show how the Imperium might have lots of sub-factions, but they're quite small, some of them, and you could argue unnecessary. You could lump them all together into a Talons of the Emperor book or something like that. If you were a collector, you might want that to happen. But onto the next page, we get Demons of Nurgle, Feculent Narmors. Feculent Narmors are basically trees. The trees that herald the arrival or the corruption of a certain place in real space, on planets, and maybe even on ships and stuff. They herald the arrival of the taint into the environment, the Nurgle taint into the environment. They are the first plants that start to grow when Nurgle's rot takes root in the galaxy, in real space. And these trees sprout up and they have like teeth. They have teeth. They have teeth and mouths, and they'll chew on you and stuff. And yeah, that's a lot of it. They are a boon to demons, so servants of Nurgle are encouraged by the presence of Feculent Narmors, for it is a sure sign that Nurgle's growing power. The chimes that hang from the trees, so the bells and all the, I was going to say whistles, but mainly all bells, the chimes that hang from the trees, rotting branches, urge Nurgle's demons hordes onwards to battle. And they are a warp conduit. They have a strong warp aura. Followers of Nurgle use this power to help summon forth demons. On to the next page, we get Space Marine Impulsor. Whew! I'm flying through this as quick as I can, but there's so much information in these pages. The Space Marine Impulsor is a Vanguard Space Marine vehicle. So we've seen, what have we seen? The Invicta Tactica Warsuit or something. Basically the Dreadnought that's not a Dreadnought because it's got a living Marine riding in it, not a half-dead Marine. We've seen the Incursors, we've seen Suppressors, and so on and so forth. We've seen a lot of Vanguard Marines, is what I'm getting at. Now this is the main vehicle of the Vanguard Marines, the workhorse if you like. Its faction is Adeptus Astartes, armor rating 5, speed 9, firepower 5. Class Recon/Transport Vehicle, crew 2 Primaris Space Marines, armaments, 2 bolters. Optional, there's a lot of optional, so I'll fly through them. Iron Hail Heavy Stubber, 2 Frag Storm Grenade Launchers, 1 Bellicastus Missile Array, or 1 Iron Hail Sky Talon Array. Propulsion, Vector Thrusters, Anti-Gravity Repulsion Plates, and Equipment, Shield Dome, which goes over the open top bit at the back of it, and Orbital Comms Array. I won't go into any more detail about that really, because like I said, there's a lot of information in this magazine. The next page is dedicated to Storm Raven Gunships. Now this is a non-Primaris vehicle. The faction, Space Marines, armour rating 5, speed 10, firepower 5, classification Interceptor. I'd never considered it an interceptor, I consider it more of a transport vehicle, but it does have a fair amount of firepower as well. Crew, 2 Space Marines. Armaments, 2 Storm Strike Missile Launchers, Twin Assault Cannon, Twin Heavy Plasma Cannon, or Twin Las Cannon, Twin Heavy Bolter, or Twin Multi-Melter, or Typhoon Missile Launcher, 2 Hurricane Bolters. Engines, supersonic engines, that's why it's got a speed rating of 10, it's a very fast vehicle. Going on to Tech Marine Pilots on the next page, this is still part of the bit about Storm Ravens. Squadron Leaders and Gunship Pilots, so it's got 2 examples here. We've got Blood Angels. The Blood Angels operate many Storm Raven gunships. Squadron Leader Phaistos bears yellow chapter symbol upon a black field on his left shoulder to signify his rank. And there's a Gunship Pilot, Tech Marine Gunship Pilot brother, Vernali, belongs to Squadron Phaistos and flies as wingman to the Squadron Leader as they unleash hell upon their enemies. On to the next page, Domains Macragge. Gives us lots of information here about Macragge. I'll break it down really quickly for you. If Terra is what Earth would be like after a nuclear apocalypse, like so all its oceans have burned off, it's basically a fortified world. It's like what Earth is like in the movie Fifth Element almost. There's very little to no naturally occurring life other than human infestation. And yeah, that's what Terra is like in the 41st millennium. Macragge is what Earth is like now, sort of, but a bit more, maybe what Earth was like 400 years ago, something like that. So it's not that it's underdeveloped or anything like that, but there's lots of fortresses, lots of castles that the Ultramarines man, but there's lots of farmland as well, and it's like more like a paradise world than Terra is in the 41st millennium. On to the next page, it talks about the Plague Wars a bit there as well. The Plague Wars saw the Death Guard descend upon the worlds of Ultramar in full force. Whilst the Death Guard forces never launched a direct attack on Macragge, raiding parties of plague drones and cultists harried the planet's defences, diverting resources from the front lines. The successful defence of Ultramar was coordinated in the command centres of the fortress of Hera, from where Marnius Kargar directed his forces to victory after victory over the Death Guard foe. Rabute Gilliman eventually led the attack that drove back Mortarian's forces. The fortress of Hera is the biggest fortress in the capital city of Macragge. And then, on to the next page, it's the Rules Mission 61. The big guns never tire. This is a battle where they want you to use all the vehicles you've got, basically. They're encouraging you to do so. There's a battle in no man's land. Lord Feltius' Death Guard infantry have joined on the front line that's a really weird sentence, joined on the front line by a large force of heavy weapons and vehicles. How embarrassing. The Ultramarines' attack is coming and they intend to meet it head on before it overwhelms them completely. This is a battle that will be won not by infantry, but by the grinding advance of smoke-belching war machines. Terrain and deployment, it talks about setting up your terrain in a way that gives your vehicles a chance to move across the battlefield. Controlling the battlefield, it gives you a few tactical tips here, controlling the battlefield and the key positions. In this mission, objective markers won't work differently than they had before. A player controls an objective marker at the end of the game if they have more models within 3 inches of the centre of that objective marker than their opponent. However, if only one player has a model with a vehicle keyword within 3 inches of the centre of the objective marker, they control it regardless of number of nearby enemy models. So yeah, like I said, they're really encouraging you to play vehicles in this mission. The battlefield is the 3 battle mats lined up side by side, as you can see behind me, and then it's a 60 power rating game, so they're giving us an extra 10 power rating to make sure we do throw as many vehicles in as possible. Only one player selects an army of Death Guard miniatures. Sorry, I don't know why I said only one player. One player selects an army of Death Guard miniatures, the other player selects an army of Space Marine miniatures. Funny that, as that's what we've got with the mag. There's 3 command points per side in this one. Deployment, the players roll off, the winner chooses a deployment zone between A and B. Players then alternate deploying their units, starting with the player who chose their deployment zone. After all units have been deployed, the player who finished setting up their army first can choose to take the first or second turn. Victory conditions, both players gain 3 victory points for each enemy vehicle or unit they destroy. Control an objective marker, 3 victory points. First player to eliminate an enemy unit, 1 victory point. Enemy warlord slain, 1 victory point. The game lasts for 5 battle rounds. Then we've got the data sheet for the repulsor. Not going to go into too much detail, I'll just give you the degrading stat line of certain stats here. So it's got 16 wounds altogether, but if it drops, it's got 16 wounds altogether, and all the way down to 9 wounds, you've got a movement of 10 inches, ballistic skill of 3+, attacks 6. And then at 5 to 8 wounds, you've got movement of 5 inches, ballistic skill 4+, attacks D6, and remaining wounds 1 to 4, so when it's on its last legs, it can only move 3 inches, its ballistic skill is 5+, so you need to roll a 5 or a 6 to hit, and attacks just 1 in close combat. It does have a handy way of avoiding close combat though, with its repulsor field. Your opponent must subtract 1 from any charge rolls made for units that declare a charge against a repulsor. So basically it's the anti-grav plates that it uses to float above the battlefield, and the battlefield's just crumbling underneath it as it passes over. So yeah, that basically symbolises that repulsor field that it generates, throwing the enemies back as they try and charge into the unit, so you need to be pretty close to get a reliable chance of charging. On to the final page. What are we getting in next week's issue of Conquest? And the last issue of Conquest, comes to think of it, well, we're getting the Magna event Walkway. Yeah, we're getting Magna event Walkway. It's a decent value kit, this actually, I've worked it out. We've only had this kit before. You can only buy it from Games Workshop as part of you get an alchemite stack in the middle of it, which is like the chimney we've already had. But if you say that's got a value of £15 to £20, then that kit altogether has a value of £45. So this Magna event Walkway, the Walkway section of it, is going to be worth, you know, in the region of £30 basically. So it's going to be a great value the last couple of issues. We'll leave it there for now, guys. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the battlefield.